of is, I would say, almost, because like those ricochet bounces are like getting insaner and insaner every time you see it. And so I think in that regard it looks fine for the side of GAM. However, AS Esports, they also on their own need to do like some noise in the early game with them playing like the Lucian Nami bot lane. They have a very good damage profile with Dex and Gwen being like the AP solo laners, Wukong being the AD jungler on their regards. And as I just now said, they force Uzi to start Relentless Pursuit level 1. I think that's maybe a decent start. Gotta say though, some Lucian Nami lanes do that anyway.
And there you go. It's already a win for GAM. They've got Lucian to start on the E instead of the Q. And I guess a bit of a nerf then for Uzi in the early stages of the game. Anyway, I want to actually talk about something that some people might think is irrelevant. Nyla, have you had a chance to experience the new ADC that is tearing up the Rift?
Ah, Nila. She actually calls herself Nila. I just played her in the bot game recently.
Nila, okay,
Yeah,
Nila.
yeah. I was like, maybe I'm just German and you should pronounce the I that way. Either way, I have, and I think the champion is very, very clunky, but very, very strong if it actually gets ahead. It's a little bit like Samira. I mean, the whole kit is kind of inspired by it, I would maybe say. Either as I say that, the level 1
Oh,
fights are
poor
already starting off.
Uzi. Oh, the relentless pursuit straight into the dredge line. The ignite does not last for long enough, and Uzi is forced under his tower. I'm just looking for the B flash auto now.
You're looking just for the B flash auto now, either way. Maybe that happens. It's a Nautilus. He could actually go for it. I mean, Style would be ready to play it, but Uzi without Summoners, very, very punishable. And that's not like the kind of threat you want to have as a Lucian Nami, because you really want to have the wave control. And currently, they just absolutely lack that. SB just set up Lancer Hook onto Xin. Xin, of course, still fine with it. GAM now in a position, however, they really need to play it aggressively, as a sustain can, of course, tip the scales back into the favor of AS Esports.
And Stalin B saying, look, we chunked out Uzi, now we're going to chunk out the Fishy as well. And all of a sudden, Uzi's back to almost full health because such hits the power. Oh, another great dredge line. Out comes the Boomerang Blade. But that Nami heals way, way too effectively. And Uzi now just got to run down Uzi, oh, pardon me, Uzi running down Style. Style into a brush, tries to make his way out. The Boomerang Blade doesn't land on 21. A good dredge line.
What?
The B's just going to get chunked down. And Uzi gets first blood. How has this happened? And Style's not going to be allowed to recall as Hyo picks up the second kill for AS Esports.
Hey, this is just too good, man. I mean, 2v2 kind of baiting GAM into that, and Uzi just running them down in the Lucian Nami, showing his proficiency on the champion, and Hyo being there, right place, right time, level 3 Wukong gank coming out. Not really something you see every game, but of course, with a chugger bot lane from GAM, this could have happened. And here we see again how they really played it out. Uzi, he's almost back to full HP from the Nami sustain. It's actually insane.
Yeah.
And yeah, Style.
He was 10
absolutely
HP a
suffering.
minute ago.
Yeah, you were speaking of like maybe flash auto attack from B, and yeah. Yes, that's what happens to B. He also keeps his flash, by the way. Maybe could have survived it at the end of the day. But Hyo and Uzi weren't having any of that. And AS Esports showing us why they maybe shouldn't stay at the bottom of the table.
So, can I just say, I want to go back to a previous question you make. What do I think of the Lucian Nami? I think it's pretty strong, I'm going to be honest with you, Grinsey. As now Levi looking for the counter-map play, looking towards LRT, hides behind the tower, forces Kiaya to flash to pick up the kill. And that was a good tower dive from GAM.
That was certainly a good start by GAM, just abusing the Megana form with early CC coming up to really make it hard for the side of the Gwen to really challenge it. I mean, Herald Mist doesn't really bring you any favor in that situation. And that is GAM striking back in the cross-map play, something that we really want to see out of them. And gotta also say, like, while this bot lane 2v2 worked well for the side of AS Esports, farming department-wise, it's kind of even still, so I don't think Style and B are too unhappy about it either way.
And now there's a Noon Quiver on Uzi. I'm sorry, that dredge line's not going to land, and that just means that Uzi gets to be aggressive for a bit. And I guess sometimes playing against Nautilus is very similar to playing against Blitzcrank, because as soon as that Q goes on to cooldown, you can really start to abuse the matchup.
You definitely can, as we know. Sorry about that, either way in the stream. I forgot to disable the no ads. Fine.
Is that the one where Clockwork's just pointing, we don't have ads on our stream?
No, it was the one where we had like in the streams before this split where we had like the caster names on it. It's like the one that
okay.
The lower third. Either way, that's gone now. Thanks for the feedback in our internal channel. And speaking of that, AS Esports have a good early game so far, right? The first 5 minutes definitely working as we didn't expect maybe of them, but with that composition, of course, you gotta deal some damage in the early game. And right now it's looking fine. I mean, also play cool on the Vex. We haven't seen Vex in a while, but do you know why that is the case? It is of course the case because of the durability patch, making her resets a lot harder to get through. But speaking of resets, Levi is in the bot lane.
Here comes Levi. Uzi just trying to hide behind the tower on B. Good dredge line. Uzi looking for the kill. They get one onto B. But now what can Uzi do? Levi stealing away the soul. And not enough damage from Uzi onto Starla. Snipping under the tower is LLT, but he just takes a tower shot. And that tower dive from LLT was not the smartest thing in the world.
No, it really wasn't, as LLT just now dies, and maybe getting a bit too high here with that early game coming up for the side of AS Esports. Usually I like to see LLT really playing this Narc Ven matchup, as he was playing both sides of it well, but just now not really working. And here, you can't kill Kiaya there. Minina is too tanky by now, and
I mean, that was a lot of damage with the Sheen.
it was, but yeah, doesn't have any CC yet, and that's Hio. They actually tried to dive him earlier Yeah, I basically did the same play twice and just killed him in the 1v2.
Oh. I understand why LLT went for that. He had 4 stacks on the passive, but they didn't all land onto Kiai. I think only the first snip landed. So Kiai survives, and 4 kills to 3 now for GAM. Uzi, though, is still strong despite that gank that we just saw from Levi on the bottom side of the map. 2 and 1 has a noon quiver, has a pickaxe as well, so should still be able to unload a lot of damage onto Stalin B if he chooses to go in for those trades.
Absolutely, as currently. Yeah, it was kind of when missing like the 2 damage cone from the snip, and that was ultimately the problem there. With LT hitting that, I think it would just be a dead Kiaya, and maybe with Triumph or anything like that, LT would survive. But like this, I mean, they just give Kiaya a favor. He now equalized the gold department for the side of GAM, and them also on the cross map taking the first wave means that GAM was winning on both sides as a map, of course. And speaking of the composition from the side of GAM, it's looking good for them. I mean, I like the Seraphim mid lane pick a lot, actually, if I think about it. I mean, yes, of course, the damage split would maybe not be ideal, but there's just so much to make use of that enchantment, right? You have Sivir and Viego who can deal brilliant damage if they are paired with Seraphine, and all that damage really is sticking in. Is something that ASE don't really have an answer for. I mean, they don't really have a full tank to really can frontline all this physical damage coming out. But as we are speaking of that right now, there is a Rift Herald started by them, and with Vex being there and Kati not making a move, this should be theirs. Levi is in the vicinity, but I think GAM is not at the right time for it.
A little bit late. Rift Herald has already been secured as Playcool want to go for the play. Flashes out of the Encore, and the Cyclone on top of Kati Seraphine. They get a kill. Playcool on the run. Flasher forward, and the Crushing Blow is going to be able to pull 1 kill back. Hio is now forced to run for his life. Flashes over the wall and out to safety. So 1-for-1, but AS Esports pick themselves up the Rift Herald.
1-for-1, and I think AS Esports is very happy with it. It's Rift Herald number 1 is very, very important. Basically just 300 gold you can get almost guaranteed unless you do an ego Rift Herald, so definitely something that they are happy about. As GAM is also going for that fight, which I think is a little bit questionable, as it is basically just them fist fighting into it, with AS Esports having the first move, and LRT, he was kind of not really interested in doing that anyway, but Kiaya was a little bit more so. As LT right now using the needlework to clear the wave as I see it. He's feeling very, very threatened by Kiaya and also Levi being close to it, as he could just get dove again, but with Megana aspiring, that likely isn't happening.
You know what they say, once bitten, twice shy, and LLT being very careful under his tower, but the Mininar, just poking him out, he ends up using the Hallowed Mist just to stop a few of Kiaya's autos, but eventually that will go on cooldown and Kiaya can go back to bullying LLT.
And speaking of bullying, we have a Gale Force now competed for the side of Uzi, and Uzi, yeah, kind of being, I wouldn't say the silent star of AS Esports, as we are keeping to praise him basically all the time. So him hitting his power spike is like the point where AS Esports will make their next move. Of course, that is something where Lucian Nami really thrive. The next power spike we would maybe afterwards see like would be him going for the Imperial Mandate on the side of the Nami from Xin. Right now, that bot lane from GAM seems to have stabilized quite a bit, and I just want to see AS Esports finding a good point to really pressure GAM. That hasn't happened so far yet, aside from that one early game fight where they got this 2 versus 0. With the great gank coming out by Hio. After that, it's basically just them doing reactive moves. aside from maybe that Drift Herald play that also worked decently for them, but LLT struggling in that 2v1 against Kiaya, not really a good look for the side of them. Here, I'm not sure if they are aware that he's around, but Levi is also there.
This is a 3v3 Cyclone. B goes golden, but he's going to come out of stasis, and it will be a kill for Uzi. Uzi desperately trying to run from Levi, but Levi will eventually be able to pick up the kill. And now looking towards Zin. So much damage. Heartbreaker forward. Good Aqua Prison from Zin. Did the Shadow Surge land? I think it was just out of range from Playcool. And Levi, I think, is going to get the kill onto Hyo. No, Hyo just about gets the shutdown. And Kati will shot Mr. Ball. Good Aqua Prison. This time the encore will land. Beat drop. Rooting Playcool in place. Forced to flash away, but the ricochets are being fired out. And it is a kill for, it's a kill for Kati. 2 kills, I believe, for Kati.
2 kills, you believe, for Kati. That's just maybe a taste of what's about to come with this Silver and Seraphine composition to really like get going. We have seen a bit of a glimpse of what Levi can do in the Lucian, and the sad answer is not so much, as he's not an AD carry player. Was kind of struggling to find the next kill when he was diving between 2 turrets, and maybe just a little bit of cockiness on the side of GAM as well, as they know that they will likely propel this game even further with them playing this dive out cleanly. Also, if that Shadow Surge from Playcool hits, it could also be a whole different way, as he would get a reset and then be able to cast a second one of those. And
I want to see a replay to see how close that was, because I think it was just 1 or 2 pixels short.
Pixels, maybe the wrong unit, but it was very, very shortly missing. I also hope to see a replay of that, as we just now see the first item completions on the side of GAM as well. I earlier addressed the Gale Force power spike coming up on the side of Uzi, but Kati's in trouble in the mid lane. Where are you?
Well, nowhere for him to go in a 1v3, and it's a shutdown quite comfortably picked up by Hyo. And I just want to highlight this in case no one's realized, but AS Esports are giving GAM a really good game.
So far, they definitely are. I mean, they gave away the first 2 Drakes and are down in gold overall. But still can make something with that first Herald they, I think, just now used. As we see in the mid lane, there should be another skirmish.
There is another skirmish. It's a Cyclone on to Levi, and it is a kill for Zin. It's a Rift Herald in the mid lane, and this is going to be first tower of the game for AS Esports, potentially. There's not really much B can do all by himself on a Nautilus.
Not that, but turret platings are, of course, still making this turret quite tanky, so there's not a first tower yet or anything along those lines, as, of course, Kati is just now also responding. Whoa!
Oh, that is aggressive! It's a kill for Playcool. He's going to die for it, but clearly AS Esports and Playcool saying he wants the kill, he wants to get a little bit more gold, doesn't care if he gifts the kill over to Kati in the process.
And I don't think that's a cool play at all, if I dare say that. I mean, it looks cool, but it's actually not something that you really want to do. As you, of course, give gold to the side of the Enchanter and Kati, who can do so much to enable Style and Levi in his own. I think Playcool maybe thinking, I need to 1v9 this game, need to get fed on this Vex, and trading the gold this way. And also in general, like here we see this skirmish again, was just a Herald push coming up by the side of AS Esports, and then GAM daring to contest that, as it is a little bit over aggressive from them, with giving it away at a 2-0 for the side of AS Esports. Them not really finding a reset for the side of Levi, who has been decently fed, but he's not like in a position where he can 1v9 the game yet. And also like the Steel Caps and the Divine Thunder HP, not doing too much to really prevent dex damage from streaming into him. He's basically dealing 2 damage to the side of Levi with this Luden's Tempest plus Sorcerer's Shoes on his side. And
so
yeah.
Oh, good flash from Playcool, as I believe B had a Hex Flash that he used over the wall and threatened to land the Dredge line on top of the Vex. What I was going to say, though, is Uzi 3 and 2 has a first item completed, but Style is a little bit more CS than Uzi, and as a result, the items are relatively even in that bottom lane currently.
They absolutely are. Gotta say, though, like, you almost have to count the Imperial Mandate as a Lucian item if you are playing this Lucian army composition, so it's actually Uzi being very, very strong right now. And Nami, of course, as an Enchanter, scales way better with items as Nautilus would do. The Nautilus basically just your crowd control bot, so to say. As Hyo, I think. Hyo got the Scuttle at least. I mean, that's at least a consolation prize to drop the second Drift Herald to the side of GAM. Of course, we know second Drift Herald, not the best objective in the world, but still decent to really have like one distraction ready if you play for this third wake, which GAM will definitely do, as it will be an Ocean Soul, which is, of course, in its own right, one of the worst souls, I would overall say, but still a great soul to really have if you are playing these compositions that are very hard to kill in general, with Seraphine being close to you, with the Nautilus speeding for you. And that's something that GAM really, really likes to take. As they are, however, I have to agree with you. I mean, they are not like absolutely stomping the bottom tier team, and they definitely have the standards as being like the top dog, the team everyone knows in the VCS, to really smash them harder in this early stage of the game. And so far, they really aren't doing that. And that is not really something that I would really like flame them for. It's just that AS Esports is playing a decent game.
Esports are taking the engage. They look for B. They're going to be able to get the kill. The Culling's really not ripping through style, but eventually Uzi will get the kill. Now running from his life, but the high note from Cardi's going to be able to pull one kill back. Going under tower, the beat drop lands onto Hio, but Hio's going to be able to survive just about an out of range of that high note. GAM are going to be able to get a couple of kills. They're going to be able to get the outer tower in the mid lane as well, but overall, it's a 2-for-2.
It's a 2-for-2, but the turret goes down because of that Herald push coming up by the side of GAM. Uzi dying is, of course, very, very detrimental to those fights. I mean, they got style, but trading it for Uzi is, I think, not even that worth of a solution right now. It's a stronger AD carry, if we see in the bot lane. Parallel to that, as Kiaya is chunking down LLT in this Narc Ven matchup, which at this stage of the game is very, very good for the Gnar as well, especially with him being up 2 kills, being up some farm, being up some local gold probably, due to all these turrets being taken as well. And yeah, the Triforce now really, really ripping in the damage, as GAM will take this other turret as well, and just now seem to regain control of the game, I would almost say, but they never really dropped the full control of the game anyway. But gotta say, was a good try by the side of AS Esports to really get this catch onto style going, but the response from GAM was just ready as well.
Yeah, and if Uzi didn't have to tank those couple of tower shots to get Star, that could have been a completely different story. In the end, they just didn't have enough burst to get through B and Style on the initial part of the fight. I do want to talk a little bit about AS Esports split so far, because at the start of the split, I was very impressed by Playcall. I think he had been, or he still is, a very consistent mid laner for them. Maybe, not at the level of, Artifact or DR1, but I think he is a solid, consistent mid laner. Then Uzi stepped up last week, and now I feel like in this series, Hyo is stepping up massively as well.
Yeah, he was also stepping up this game. I mean, we just saw how he started the game off with this early bot lane dive to really get going on the Wukong pick. And of course, in the early game, has a decent matchup against the Viego. But now, again, don't get to talk. GAM's fighting.
LLT trying to come from the side with the needlework. B has already fallen, but it's a big 3-man Gnarlhold from Kiaya. And LLT just doesn't have the damage. Stuck in a 1v4. He can snip, but he won't be able to find a single member of AS Esports. And GAM pick up themselves an ace for 1, and they'll be taking themselves on to Ocean Soul Point.
AS Esports engage was decent, but GAM's engage was just better. I mean, we all just saw what Kiaya did on this Mega Gnar, really smashing them all into this wall. And this whole Enchantment Seraphine composition around Viego and Silver is now really starting to gel. Also, like the gold lead was also starting to go towards significant amounts, and GAM just to some extent also clapping them with their wallets, which result in a 5-for-1 for them. Also going to Soul Point. Baron not on the table yet, as it would maybe be a topic if, yeah, there would be a Baron on the map right now. But so far, GAM just now with this fight kind of cemented that game to be like in their pocket. It's a 5,000 gold lead by now, and AS Esports, I don't blame them for going for this engage in general. Just if you really want to get a pick, you need to get it instantly. And against Kati Seraphine, that's just so hard to do.
And as you mentioned, that Seraphine, huge for Kati on practically 3 items at this point as well. And that's just B, just finding the flash engage onto Hyo.
Yeah, and also like the initial positioning from AS Esports is a little bit questionable. I like what they tried to do with like going for something like a Cyclone into Shadow Surge from the side of Playcool and Hyo, but it just wasn't really enough, as they were like the only damage dealers really being in prime position. Uzi and Zin can get cleaned up way too quickly, and you really need Uzi's damage in these team fights, and yeah, that's just not happening if you really die so quickly. And LRT's Gwen, I gotta say, while I like the laning phase to some extent, I think as soon as he died to Kiaya in the turret, he maybe kind of tilted a little bit, and he's just on 1 item right now and really struggling to find impact in his team fights as well.
Well, it's been one of the questions we've had about the side of AS Esports. Who has been a better top laner for them, LLT or 2T, and who would rather see in? And I feel like while we've had mixed responses, I feel like we've been leaning more towards the side of 2T.
I mean, 2T is the main mid laner, right? But
Yes.
if the substitute...
Well, no. Sub-mid
not?
laner at this point.
I mean, his main role is the mid lane, is what I want to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. True. But GAM's main role right now is engaging onto Hyo, but this time he is going to be able to survive. Playcool showing up. Again, it's a Shadow Surge that lands, but it is only onto the support, and AS Esports do not want to take this play.
Yeah, can't really follow up onto B. He's just too tanky at this point. Almost as tanky as he looks on this now to support pick, which of course has a very high impact on the current state of the game. With also Baron being on the table right now, GAM is very, very significantly ahead all of a sudden with that massive gold swing from the last Drake fight. They could maybe even try to go for this as the key abilities are down for side of AS Esports. I mean, they don't have the cooling, they don't have the Shadow Surge. It's basically just Hero and the Cyclone to really do anything. And GAM, as they are one of the top teams or aspiring to be one, would maybe even go for this small angle that they could go. But they decide against it, as yeah, you don't really need to go for this risk. It would be something they could do, and just now maybe they change their mind and they start off the Baron.
Well, Carti's Encore has come off a cooldown, and aside from that, most of the ults were on cooldown for GAM. Now, there is a flank teleport coming through from LLT. He's trying to come in from the side. The needlework is still on cooldown, but is this the fight they want? Look how low Style is! Uzi goes into the pit and will be able to shut down the Sivir. But it is a one-for-one play call, distracting the rest of the members from GAM. And GAM turn back to the Baron Nashor once again. Look at that needlework for LLT is off cooldown very, very soon. And AS Esports want to go for the play. Into the pit goes LLT.
Oh,
he starts throwing out the needles. And it's Hio who finds the steal over Levi. But does LLT have the damage? He's on to B. He doesn't have any more needles to throw. All he can do is just start autoing. He's looking towards Levi. Now he looks towards Kiai, but he will look towards the base as Levi picks up a triple kill.
I don't know if I want to love or hate this play from GAM, because they were absolutely in the right to at least start the Baron off and maybe even bait a fight, but then they do a relatively poor job of zoning Hio out of the pit. He was like on 300 HP at the Wukong and managed to get in and steal the Baron, which of course granted them in a shutdown. But at the end of the day, who really was that Baron for? AS Esports get completely aced in the aftermath of that fight, so at the end of the day, it's kind of fine for them regardless. And while it was a really, really dirty fight, I want to almost applaud GAM for going for this.
You've got a limit test, I feel. You know, the split's a long one. You need to be constantly improving, and you don't improve unless you take sometimes those 50-50 fights. If you always take the easy road, eventually you'll come up against a team where you can no longer take the easy road, and then you find yourself with no practice in the difficult place.
Yeah, and I think for AS Esports it's worth because the objective bounties coming in. Gotta say though, like, this was a 90-10 Baron actually, and Hio was insane.
Oh, it's a two-man encore, and oh my god, Carti absolutely shreds through Xin. And now GAM find themselves with their 5v4. It's a good shutdown. Levi's down. There won't be any more resets for the Viego. Good three-man fear from Playcall. But as soon as he comes out of stasis, he will be left in the waiting arms of Stal Uzi with a really good sidestep. But it doesn't matter. There's just too much damage coming through from Carti. And it is a 4 kills for just 1. And Kiaya is going to be securing the Ocean Soul for GAM.
Yeah, that's the most important part. Ocean Soul going over to the side of GAM. The gold doesn't really matter that much. I mean, GAM could be in an even state right now and would probably still roll over these fights with that disgusting Seraphine composition they really drafted themselves. Gotta give credit where credit is due. The Uzi really doing well on this Lucian to really get this cooling going and finish off Lever before he can manage to get too many resets. And the fight was a little bit of a scrappy one as well. And AS Esports, while taking a really bad fight in this river, where I think it was Zin that was getting hooked pretty early on, with B just sidestepping his, yeah, was just Encore hitting, just Dredgeline hitting from the side of B on the follow-up, and of course Nami, as a squishy fish she is, dies pretty quickly. But watch Uzi. I mean, definitely good start for him. It wasn't actually the cooling finishing it off, but it was Hio on the Wukong. But Uzi's damage was, of course, the lion's share in doing anything in there, and Hio has to escape to the side. Uzi gets finished off in his own base by all this chase potential coming up by the side of Carti, who I really like this game. I mean, I usually like to criticize Carti for his gameplay, because he was last split taking very unnecessary risk, in my opinion, having a worse split than both Froggy and Artifact, which is of course no shame, as Artifact has been absolutely insane especially. But this game on the Seraphine, I really love what Carti is doing.
And Carti has been very good, and I have to echo your statement, Quincy, because I've been very harsh on Carti over the first part of this split. I don't think he's been playing well. I wouldn't have even put him in the top 3, maybe not even in the top 4 mid laners in the split. But in a couple of weeks, he's been playing very well. Has Kiaya overextended? Hio looking for the pick. The Cyclone's going to be able to find the knockup, but his 4 members of AS Esports going for this kill. Is a shutdown for Uzi. Meanwhile, Gamma just crashing on in to 2 inhibitor towers in the top and mid lanes.
Yeah, it's just Giga Chat care. Yeah, just gets ran down by 3 men, but just doesn't care. Meanwhile, his team taking maybe even 2 inhibitors out of that, as Levi is finishing the one in the mid lane, and the top lane is getting cracked as well. I think, however, GAM might have to retreat right now as they are 4v5, and you still need to respect the 5-man squad coming up by AS Esports.
How much work does the culling do? It does a fair bit on a 2B. B will flash over the wall, but look how low the members of AS Esports are. 2 members going gold, and Playcool will die instantly, and so will Hyo. And despite it being a 5v4, the 4 members of a GAM are going to be coming out on top. Levi stealing the soul of Playcool, and will be able to land the fear, will be able to find the kill. And now Zin and LLD are being forced to run away from their own fountain because Levi is guarding it. They can try to back, but they're not going to be allowed to. It's going to be Zin who's backing as a mini wave crashes on in to the first Nexus Tower. The second Nexus Tower now comes under siege as well. And GAM in 26 minutes will take the first game of the series against AS Esports.
It looked close at first, but then just kind of didn't when GAM's comp really was one then with the Seraphine and the double fighters.